A warehouse worker in Mississauga opens a valve on an unmarked drum. Within seconds, chlorine gas fills the room. 3 workers are hospitalized. The safety data sheet was in a binder, 10 feet away. What if those workers had known what was in that drum and what to do if something went wrong? This is WHMIS, the system that exists so they do. Every year in Canada, thousands of workers are injured by exposure to hazardous chemicals. Burns, respiratory damage, poisonings. Some of these injuries are fatal, and almost all of them are preventable if workers know 3 things: what they're working with, what the dangers are, and how to protect themselves. That's what WHMIS does, and that's what this course will teach you. Over the next 35 minutes, we'll cover the entire WHMIS system, from hazard classification to safety data sheets, from pictograms to emergency response. By the end, you'll know how to read a chemical label in seconds, find critical safety information in an SDS, and respond correctly if something goes wrong. And there's one section of the SDS that most workers have never read, but it could save your life. WHMIS stands for the Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System. It's been Canadian law since 1988. In 2015, Canada aligned WHMIS with the Globally Harmonized System, or GHS, an international standard used in over 70 countries. Then in December 2022, the Hazardous Products Regulations were amended again to align with the 7th and 8th revised editions of GHS. That transition period ended December 14, 2025. The current system is simply called WHMIS, not WHMIS 2015 anymore. WHMIS is built on 3 pillars: labels, the warning information attached directly to hazardous products; safety data sheets, detailed documents that tell you everything about a product's hazards, safe handling, and emergency procedures; and education and training, which is what you're doing right now. These 3 pillars work together. Labels give you the first warning. Safety data sheets give you the full picture. Training teaches you how to use both. If any one pillar is missing, a label peeled off, an SDS outdated, a worker untrained, the system breaks down, and people get hurt. WHMIS creates a chain of responsibility. Suppliers, the companies that manufacture or import hazardous products, must classify the hazards, create safety data sheets, and attach proper labels before selling. Employers must ensure every hazardous product in the workplace has a label and an SDS available. They must provide WHMIS education and workplace-specific training. They must update SDSs when new information becomes available. And workers, that's you, have responsibilities too. You must participate in training. You must follow safe work procedures. You must use the protective equipment provided. And you must report any missing labels, damaged containers, or unsafe conditions. WHMIS only works if everyone in the chain does their part. Every hazardous product regulated under WHMIS falls into one of 2 groups: physical hazards and health hazards. Physical hazards are about what the product can do on its own. Can it catch fire? Can it explode? Is it under pressure? Health hazards are about what the product can do to your body. Can it burn your skin? Damage your lungs? Cause cancer over time? Understanding which group a product belongs to tells you whether the danger is the product reacting or the product harming you. Let's start with physical hazards. There are 19 physical hazard classes under the current WHMIS regulations. You don't need to memorize all 19, but you need to understand the most common ones you'll encounter at work: flammable gases, flammable liquids, and flammable solids, products that can ignite; aerosols, pressurized containers that can burst or ignite; oxidizing gases, liquids, and solids, products that can intensify a fire; gases under pressure, cylinders that can explode if heated; corrosive to metals, products that chemically destroy metal; and a newer addition, chemicals under pressure, liquids or solids packaged under high pressure, added in the December 2022 amendments. 3 classes are specific to Canada: combustible dusts, simple asphyxiants, and physical hazards not otherwise classified. Now, health hazards. There are 12 health hazard classes. These describe what a product can do to your body. Acute toxicity. A single exposure can make you seriously ill or kill you. Skin corrosion and irritation. Chemical burns or rashes on contact. Serious eye damage and eye irritation. Respiratory or skin sensitization. The product can trigger allergic reactions, asthma symptoms, or breathing difficulty. Germ cell mutagenicity, damage to your DNA. Carcinogenicity, may cause cancer. Reproductive toxicity, harm to fertility or the unborn child. Specific target organ toxicity from single exposure, damages a specific organ after one contact. Specific target organ toxicity from repeated exposure, damages organs over time. Aspiration hazard, enters your lungs and causes damage. Biohazardous infectious materials, and health hazards not otherwise classified. Let's connect these to products you actually use at work. Gasoline and paint thinner, flammable liquids. Propane tanks on a construction site, flammable gases under pressure. WD-40 and spray paint, aerosols that can burst and ignite. Pool chlorine and hydrogen peroxide, oxidizers that intensify fire. Acetylene cylinders for welding, gases under pressure that can explode. Battery acid and concrete cleaner, corrosive to metals. Grain dust in a silo or flour in a bakery, combustible dusts. And nitrogen gas in a confined space, a simple asphyxiant that displaces oxygen without any smell or warning. These aren't exotic chemicals in a laboratory. These are products on your job site right now. Now let's make the health hazard classes real. Acute toxicity, methanol. A small amount swallowed can cause blindness or death. Skin corrosion, concentrated sulfuric acid. It burns through skin in seconds. Respiratory sensitization, isocyanates and spray foam insulation. One exposure can trigger permanent asthma that never goes away. Carcinogenicity, crystalline silica dust from cutting concrete. Years of inhaling it causes silicosis and lung cancer. Reproductive toxicity, lead. Chronic exposure damages fertility and harms unborn children. This is why painters, plumbers, and construction workers need regular blood testing for lead levels. Specific target organ toxicity, toluene. Chronic exposure damages the liver and kidneys. These are real products in real Canadian workplaces, causing real harm, but only to workers who don't know what they're working with. Within each class, products are assigned a category, a number that tells you how severe the hazard is. Category 1 is always the most dangerous. Category 2 is less severe than 1. Category 3 less than 2, and so on. Some classes also have subcategories, like flammable gases Category 1A and 1B. Remember, lower number, higher danger. Category 1 is the worst. This is the opposite of what most people expect. Pictograms are the visual shorthand of WHMIS. They're the diamond-shaped symbols you see on labels and safety data sheets. Each one represents a type of hazard. There are 10 pictograms in WHMIS, and you need to recognize all of them. The flame. This is the most common pictogram you'll encounter. It means the product is flammable. It can catch fire easily. You'll see it on flammable gases, flammable liquids, flammable solids, self-reactive substances, pyrophoric materials, and self-heating substances. Think gasoline, acetone, propane, paint thinner. If you see the flame, keep the product away from heat sources, sparks, and open flames. The exploding bomb. This product can explode. You'll find it on self-reactive substances, organic peroxides, and certain other unstable chemicals. These products can detonate under heat, friction, or shock. Handle with extreme care, and never store them near heat sources. Flame over circle, the oxidizer symbol. Oxidizers don't necessarily burn on their own, but they intensify fire. They release oxygen, which feeds flames. Oxidizing gases like pure oxygen, oxidizing liquids like hydrogen peroxide, and oxidizing solids, if these come in contact with flammable materials, the fire burns hotter, faster, and harder to extinguish. The gas cylinder. Any product stored as a compressed gas, liquefied gas, dissolved gas, or refrigerated liquefied gas. The danger is pressure. These cylinders can explode if damaged or heated. Refrigerated liquefied gases also cause severe cryogenic burns on contact with skin. The corrosion pictogram, it shows material being eaten away. This product can cause severe chemical burns to skin and eyes on contact. It can also corrode metal. Think sulfuric acid, sodium hydroxide, hydrochloric acid. If you see this pictogram, skin and eye protection are mandatory. Gloves, goggles, face shield. Skull and crossbones. This is the most serious acute toxicity warning. This product can kill you or cause serious harm from a single exposure through inhalation, skin contact, or ingestion. These are the products where getting the PPE wrong isn't an inconvenience. It's life-threatening. The exclamation mark, a broader warning symbol. It covers less severe acute toxicity, harmful but not immediately fatal, skin irritation, eye irritation, respiratory tract irritation, narcotic effects like drowsiness and dizziness, and skin sensitization, allergic reactions. Don't dismiss this one because it looks less serious. Repeated exposure to an irritant can cause permanent damage. The health hazard, the silhouette with a starburst on the chest. This is the long-term damage pictogram. Carcinogenicity may cause cancer. Germ cell mutagenicity may damage DNA. Reproductive toxicity may harm fertility or the unborn child. Respiratory sensitization may cause asthma. Specific target organ toxicity damages specific organs from single or repeated exposure. An aspiration hazard may be fatal if swallowed and it enters your airways. These hazards may not show symptoms immediately. That's what makes them dangerous. The damage happens silently over time. The environment pictogram, a dead tree and fish. While Canada hasn't formally adopted environmental hazard classes in WHMIS, you may still see this pictogram on labels and SDS. It means the product is toxic to aquatic life. Proper disposal matters. These products should never go down the drain. The biohazardous infectious materials symbol. This one is unique to Canada. It's not part of the international GHS standard. It covers organisms and the toxins they produce that can cause disease in humans. Think blood samples, cultures, clinical specimens. If you work in healthcare, laboratory, or waste handling, this one applies to you. 10 pictograms, each one a visual warning. You don't need to be a chemist to understand them. You just need to know what they look like and what they mean. If you see a pictogram you don't recognize, check the SDS. We'll show you exactly how to do that shortly. WHMIS uses two types of labels. Supplier labels, attached by the manufacturer or importer before the product is sold, and workplace labels, created by the employer when products are transferred into different containers or when supplier labels are damaged or missing. Both are legally required. A hazardous product without a label is a violation and a danger. A supplier label must include 7 elements. The product identifier, the name of the product. The supplier identifier, who made it and how to contact them. Pictograms, the diamond-shaped hazard symbols we just covered. A signal word, either danger for severe hazards or warning for less severe hazards. Only one signal word per label. Hazard statements, standardized phrases that describe the nature of the hazard, like highly flammable liquid and vapor, or causes serious eye damage. Precautionary statements, how to safely store, handle, and dispose of the product. And a supplemental label element, the hatched border around the edge, which is unique to WHMIS and tells you the label complies with Canadian requirements. Workplace labels are simpler. They need 3 things. The product identifier, what is it? Safe handling information, or a reference to the SDS, and the pictograms or other hazard information. If you transfer a hazardous product into a different container for use during your shift, it needs a workplace label, even if it's a temporary container. The only exception if you're using it immediately and it stays in your possession. If a label is missing, illegible, or damaged, do not use the product. Report it to your supervisor immediately. Using an unlabeled hazardous product is one of the most common ways workers get injured. You don't know what it is, you don't know what it can do, and you don't know how to protect yourself. No label, no use. Period. A safety data sheet, or SDS, is a detailed document that tells you everything you need to know about a hazardous product. Every hazardous product in your workplace must have an SDS. Your employer must keep them accessible. You have the legal right to see them. An SDS must be no more than 3 years old. If the information changes, the SDS must be updated. Every SDS follows the same 16-section format, worldwide. This means once you know how to read one SDS, you can read any of them. We'll go through all 16, but I'm going to flag the 4 sections you'll use most often, because in an emergency, you won't have time to read 16 pages. Section 4, First Aid Measures. If someone is exposed to the product, this section tells you exactly what to do. It breaks down first aid by route of exposure, what to do if it's inhaled, if it contacts skin, if it gets in the eyes, or if it's swallowed. It also describes symptoms to watch for, both immediate and delayed. In an emergency, this is the section you read first, before calling poison control, before driving to the hospital. Know where Section 4 is in every SDS at your work site. Section 6, Accidental Release Measures. A spill just happened. What do? This section tells you personal precautions, protective equipment to use, emergency procedures, methods for containment and cleanup. It's the difference between a controlled response and a panicked one. If your workplace handles chemicals that can spill, and most do, review Section 6 before you need it. Section 8, Exposure Controls and Personal Protection. This is the section that tells you what PPE to wear. It lists the occupational exposure limits, the maximum concentration you can safely be exposed to. It specifies engineering controls like ventilation requirements, and it details the exact personal protective equipment, what type of gloves, what type of respirator, what type of eye protection. Wear gloves is not enough. Section 8 tells you which gloves, nitrile neoprene, butyl rubber. The material matters because the wrong glove type won't protect you. Section 11, Toxicological Information. This is the section most workers have never read, and it could save your life. It tells you exactly how the product can harm you. Routes of exposure, inhalation, ingestion, skin, eyes, whether the effects are acute or chronic, and the numerical measures of toxicity, the LD50 and LC50 values that indicate how much of the product is lethal. This section turns a vague "it's dangerous" into specific, actionable information about exactly how it's dangerous. The other 12 sections are still valuable. Here's what they cover. Section 1, Identification, the product name and supplier contact information. Section 2, Hazard Identification, the classification, pictograms, signal word, and hazard statements. This is basically the label in text form. Section 3, Composition and Ingredients, what's actually in the product. Section 5, Firefighting Measures, what to use to extinguish a fire involving this product. Section 7, Handling and Storage, how to safely work with it and where to keep it. Section 9, Physical and Chemical Properties, boiling point, flash point, appearance, odor. Section 10, Stability and Reactivity, conditions to avoid and incompatible materials. Sections 12 through 15 cover ecological information, disposal, transportation, and regulatory information. And Section 16, Other Information, including when the SDS was last updated. You won't need these every day, but know they exist. In practice, here's how to use an SDS quickly. Before you start working with a new product, check Section 2 for the hazard summary, Section 8 for the PPE you need, and Section 7 for handling precautions. If someone is exposed, go straight to Section 4 for first aid. If there's a spill, Section 6. If there's a fire, Section 5. You don't need to read all 16 sections every time. You need to know which section answers your question and go there directly. Think of it like a reference manual, not a novel. One more thing about safety data sheets. You have the legal right to access the SDS for any hazardous product in your workplace. If you ask for it and it's not available, that's a violation. Your employer must make SDSs readily available, not locked in an office, not on a computer you can't access, available when and where you need them. How do hazardous products actually get into your body? There are 4 routes of exposure. Inhalation, breathing in vapors, gases, dusts, or mists. This is the most common route of exposure in most workplaces. Skin absorption, chemicals passing through your skin into your bloodstream. Ingestion, swallowing a product, often accidentally through contaminated hands, food, or drinks. And injection, a product entering through a cut, puncture, or wound. Understanding the route tells you how to block it. Exposure effects fall into 2 categories. Acute effects happen immediately or within hours. Burns, dizziness, nausea, difficulty breathing. You know something went wrong because you feel it right away. Chronic effects develop over weeks, months, or years of repeated exposure. Lung disease, organ damage, cancer. You don't feel chronic effects happening. That's what makes them more dangerous. By the time you have symptoms, the damage is done. This is why exposure limits exist, and why PPE isn't optional even when you feel fine. How much exposure is too much? That's what occupational exposure limits tell you. An OEL is the maximum concentration of a chemical that a worker can be exposed to over a defined period, usually an 8-hour workday. In Canada, each province sets its own limits, often based on the American Conference of Governmental Industrial Hygienists, or ACGIH, threshold limit values. There are 3 types: the TLV-TWA, the time-weighted average over 8 hours, the TLVS-TEL, the short-term exposure limit, usually 15 minutes, And the TLVC, the ceiling, the concentration that must never be exceeded, even for an instant. You'll find these numbers in Section 8 of the SDS. They exist because a product might be safe at low concentrations but deadly at high ones. Let's make this concrete. A painter sprays solvent-based paint in a poorly ventilated room, inhaling toluene vapors for 8 hours. Acute, headache, dizziness. Chronic after years, liver and kidney damage. A cleaner uses industrial degreaser without gloves. The solvent absorbs through their skin. Acute, redness and irritation. Chronic, dermatitis that never fully heals. A mechanic eats lunch without washing their hands after handling brake cleaner. Ingesting trace amounts of chlorinated solvents. These aren't dramatic chemical plant explosions. They're everyday exposures that happen because someone didn't know or didn't take it seriously. PPE is important, but it's actually the last line of defense. The hierarchy of controls ranks protective measures from most effective to least effective. Elimination. Remove the hazardous product entirely. Can you use a non-hazardous substitute? Substitution. Replace a more dangerous product with a less dangerous one. Engineering controls. Isolate workers from the hazard using ventilation, enclosures, or automation. Administrative controls. Change how people work. Limit exposure time, rotate workers, post warning signs, and finally personal protective equipment. Gloves, respirators, goggles, coveralls. PPE is the last resort because it depends entirely on the worker using it correctly. A respirator in your locker doesn't protect your lungs. When PPE is required, Section 8 of the SDS tells you exactly what to use. Eye protection, safety glasses, splash goggles, or a full face shield, each for different hazard levels. Hand protection, the specific glove material and thickness. Respiratory protection, whether you need a dust mask, a half-face respirator with chemical cartridges, or a supplied air respirator. Body protection, chemical-resistant apron, coveralls, or a full chemical suit. Using the wrong type of PPE is almost as dangerous as using none. A dust mask does not protect against chemical vapors. Latex gloves do not resist most solvents. Check the SDS. PPE only works if it's in good condition. Inspect your equipment before every use. Check respirator cartridges. They have expiry dates and limited service life. Once a cartridge is saturated, it stops filtering. Chemical gloves degrade over time. Check for cracks, discoloration, or stiffness. If a glove feels different than it did when new, replace it. Safety goggles must seal properly against your face. Scratched or fogged lenses reduce your ability to see hazards. And know the limitations of your PPE. A half-face respirator with organic vapor cartridges does not protect against all chemicals. It protects against the specific chemicals that cartridge is rated for. The SDS tells you what you need. Make sure what you're wearing matches. No matter how careful you are, emergencies happen. A container breaks, a valve fails, a coworker is exposed. The next 60 seconds matter more than the last 60 minutes of safety training, but only if you know what to do before it happens. Chemical spill. Step 1. Get yourself out of immediate danger. Don't rush in. Step 2. Identify the product. Read the label or check the SDS. Step 3. If it's safe to do so, contain the spill. Use absorbent material, dikes, or the spill kit your workplace should have. Step 4. Notify your supervisor and anyone in the area. Step 5. Don't clean up a spill you're not trained or equipped to handle. Some chemicals require specialized hazmat response, not a mop and bucket. If you or a coworker is directly exposed, skin contact. Remove contaminated clothing and rinse the affected area with water for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Eye contact. Use the emergency eye wash station. Rinse for at least 15 minutes. Hold the eyelids open. Inhalation. Move to fresh air immediately. If the person is not breathing, call emergency services. Ingestion. Do not induce vomiting unless the SDS specifically says to. Call poison control. In every case, bring the SDS or the product label with you to medical treatment. The doctors need to know exactly what the product is. The most important emergency response principle: know before you need to. Read Section 4 and Section 6 of the SDS for every hazardous product you work with regularly, before there's an emergency. Know where the eye wash station is. Know where the spill kit is. Know the emergency number for your facility. When something goes wrong, you don't have time to learn. You only have time to act. Under Canadian Occupational Health and Safety Law, you have 3 fundamental rights as a worker. The right to know. You have the right to be informed about hazards in your workplace. This is the foundation of WHMIS. The right to participate. You have the right to be involved in health and safety decisions and to participate in the Joint Health and Safety Committee. And the right to refuse unsafe work. If you believe a task poses a serious and imminent danger to your health or safety, you have the legal right to refuse. You cannot be disciplined or fired for exercising these rights. With rights come responsibilities. As a worker, you are legally required to attend WHMIS education and training when provided, use hazardous products safely and follow the instructions on labels and SDS, wear the personal protective equipment your employer provides and requires. Report to your supervisor if you see a missing label, a damaged container, or a situation that puts someone at risk. And ask questions if you're unsure about a product. Never assume a chemical is safe because it looks harmless or because you've used it before without problems. The one time you skip the label could be the time it matters. And your employer has obligations to you. They must maintain an up-to-date inventory of all hazardous products in the workplace. Keep current SDSEs accessible, within the workplace, not in a head office somewhere else. Ensure all containers are properly labeled. Provide WHMIS education and workplace-specific training, and provide the PPE required by the SDSEs. If any of these are missing at your workplace, you have the right to raise it with your supervisor, your Health and Safety Committee, or your Provincial Occupational Health and Safety Authority. If you've taken WHMIS training before, here's what's changed and why you're taking it again. In December 2022, Canada amended the hazardous products regulations to align with the latest global standards. The transition period ended December 14, 2025, meaning all products in Canadian workplaces must now comply with the amended regulations. This isn't a minor update. The changes affect hazard classes, labels, and SDSEs. The key changes you need to know. A new physical hazard class. Chemicals under pressure. For liquids and solids packaged under high pressure that don't fit the aerosol or gas cylinder categories. The flammable aerosols class is now simply called aerosols, with a new category for non-flammable aerosols. Flammable gases category 1 is now split into 1A and 1B. Pyrophoric gases and chemically unstable gases are now classified under flammable gases category 1A instead of being separate. And several health hazard classification criteria have been refined for better accuracy, including reproductive toxicity and water-activated toxicants. What this means for you as a worker: you may see new pictograms on products you've used before. SDSEs may have additional information elements. Labels may look slightly different. The core system hasn't changed. Labels, SDSEs, and training still work the same way. But the details within that system have been updated to be more precise and more globally consistent. If you notice a product's label or SDS looks different from what you remember, that's the amendment in action. Read it, don't assume the old information still applies. Let's bring it all together. WHMIS is a system, and every part of it connects. Hazardous products are classified into physical and health hazard groups, with specific classes and categories that tell you what the danger is and how severe it is. Pictograms give you instant visual identification of the hazard type, 10 symbols that are the same worldwide. Labels, supplier and workplace, give you the first line of information, what the product is, what it can do, and how to handle it safely. Safety data sheets give you the full picture, 16 sections covering everything from first aid to toxicology. Your employer provides the training, the labels, the SDSEs, and the PPE. You use them, and you have the legal right to all of it. If you remember 5 things from this course, make it these. 1. Read the label before you use any product, every time. 2. Know where the SDSEs are at your worksite, and know how to find sections 4, 6, 8, and 11. 3. Recognize the pictograms. They're your first warning. 4. Understand how chemicals enter your body. Inhalation, skin, ingestion, injection, and use the right PPE to block each route. 5. You have the right to know, the right to participate, and the right to refuse. Use those rights. Remember the warehouse worker from the beginning? An unmarked drum, chlorine gas, 3 people hospitalized. The SDS was 10 feet away. WHMIS exists so that you never have to be in that room. uninformed, unprepared, and unprotected. The information is there, the training is here. Now it's on you to use it. Thanks for watching. If this course was useful, subscribe for more safety training content. Visit safetyevolution.com for additional resources.